Amidst the glittering spectacle of a celebrity charity concert, President Ibrahim Traoré became the unsuspecting focus of a renowned singer's biting ridicule. A wave of laughter swept the arena, sharp and dismissive. But in the charged silence that followed, a different kind of electricity filled the air. For with an unyielding resolve in his eyes and the weight of a nation in his heart, Traoré strode toward the stage. The voice that then emerged, raw and resonant, wouldn't just command the attention of thousands. It would echo across the digital expanse, compelling a world to listen. Indeed, the most profound respect often finds its genesis in the unlikeliest of crucibles. Our narrative truly ignites on an unassuming Tuesday morning in Ouagadougou. Within the stark simplicity of his office, President Ibrahim Traoré was poring over dispatches detailing the plight of displaced children, their futures hanging in the balance. The sudden trill of his phone was the first ripple in the calm. The message was succinct, an invitation to the Africa Unite charity concert. A constellation of stars, sir. A high-profile affair this Friday. A single eyebrow arched in contemplation. A celebrity spectacle? It was a world away from his usual orbit. Yet the concert's purpose, to aid West African refugees, a cause that tugged persistently at the very fabric of his conscience, resonated deeply. After a thoughtful silence, a quiet affirmation. Relay my acceptance. I shall be there. Discreetly Thursday evening found him not aboard a presidential jet, but on a commercial airliner, a simple man in a plain suit amidst a sea of everyday travelers. No crimson carpets unfurled, no motorcades awaited. His arrival in Lagos went largely unheralded by the press, a whisper in the bustling city. Yet to the concert organizers, his quiet yes had landed with the force of a thunderclap. And within the glittering echelons of celebrity, not all were receptive indeed. One luminary shone with a particular disdain. Dio Blaze, an Afrobeat titan whose pronouncements swayed millions. To him, Traoré's presence reeked of a calculated publicity grab. Backstage, amidst the controlled chaos, he murmured to his manager, a conspiratorial glint in his eye. Let's ensure the president has a memorable evening. A little public roasting, perhaps? Little did they grasp the profound, life-altering currents this single night was about to unleash. Inside the concert hall was a sensory explosion, a dizzying kaleidoscope of lasers painting the darkness, vibrant hues washing over ecstatic faces. A-listers, digital tastemakers, and gravity-defying dancers commanded the space, their every move amplified by a constellation of lenses. A throng of 30,000 souls thundered their approval as one chart topper bled into the next. And there, an island of quiet composure in this ocean of exuberance, sat President Ibrahim Traoré, flanked by a discreet security detail, his presence an understated counterpoint to the surrounding fervor. Few, if any, anticipated a spectacle from him. He offered applause with measured grace, a polite smile his only concession to the surrounding glitter. His quiet humility, however, didn't escape notice. Hushed whispers and discreetly pointed fingers rippled through the nearby rows, questioning the presence of a head of state so conspicuously devoid of the customary pomp. Then Dio Blaze swaggered onto the stage. The arena erupted post-anthem number 3. Dio Blaze, ever the showman, made a grand spectacle of mopping his brow, a predatory grin stretching across his face. Ladies and gentlemen, he purred into the mic as cameras swiveled, zeroing in on Traoré's impassive expression. The sea of faces turned as one. Let's hear it for the president of... Wait for it? What was that nation again? Ah, yes, Burkina. Burrito? A wave of derisive laughter crashed through the stadium. An almost imperceptible smile touched Traoré's lips, his composure an unbreachable fortress amidst the rising tide of mockery. No offense, Your Excellency, Dio Blaze sneered, dripping with sarcasm. Truly a man of the people. Though one has to wonder, do real presidents brave the indignities of economy class? The laughter swelled, more biting now. A few in the audience visibly cringed, yet Traoré remained a pillar of stillness. Then with deliberate, unhurried grace, he rose. A collective gasp. He began to move toward the stage, and the world, it seemed, held its breath. A flicker of unease, then outright confusion, crossed Dioblaze's face. He instinctively recoiled. Was the president actually approaching him? Ibrahim Traoré advanced, not with aggression, but with an almost unnerving quietude. The measured tread of a man who had weathered tempests and now regarded this mere squall with equanimity. The arena was a cathedral of held breaths. An event coordinator, flustered, intercepted him. A hushed, urgent plea. "Mr. President, please. This isn't necessary." A reassuring hand met the coordinator's shoulder. A softly murmured, "It is quite all right." Then he was at the stage's edge. Dioblaze, visibly unnerved, fumbled slightly before relinquishing the microphone, a shadow of doubt flickering in his eyes. Was this an elaborate jest? Traoré accepted it, his grip firm. He pivoted, a solitary figure commanding the vast expanse before him. And when he finally spoke, his voice, though unhurried and low, possessed a crystalline clarity, each syllable slicing through the charged silence with the undeniable weight of truth. "I sought no ovations tonight," his voice resonated, devoid of any artifice. "Nor did I seek preferential treatment. My presence here is for a singular, solemn reason. Across this vast continent, children are gripped by the pangs of hunger, families scatter before the ravages of war. And this very stage, this transcendent power of music, holds the sacred potential to unite us, not to cleave us asunder." A profound hush descended upon the multitude. Lenses converged, phones emerged, aglow, and in the dim light, tears already glistened on somber faces. But the true heart of his address was yet to be unveiled. "Allow me to share something personal," Traoré stated, his grip resolute on the microphone. "It concerns a young boy I encountered in a refugee camp merely 3 days past." His voice, a steady anchor in the expectant silence, continued, "Just 3 days ago, in a border camp between Burkina Faso and Mali, my path crossed with a child named Mahammudo. He was a mere decade into his young life. A collective hushed intake of breath rippled through the auditorium as the stage lights softened, a poignant hush falling. Then projected onto the vast screen behind him, an image materialized. A diminutive figure, clad in rags, his small feet caked with dust, eyes windows to an old soul's weariness. Yet in his hand, a simple stick was clutched with the defiant air of a king's sword. "Shoeless, parentless president," he confided, his voice a fragile whisper. "I aspire to be a doctor, to mend people, much like one mends a bicycle." A faint, bitter-sweet chuckle rippled nearby, punctuated by a stifled sob. For this small visionary possessed no school, scant food, only a fierce, unyielding hope. "I sat with him on the parched earth," Traoré recounted, his own voice momentarily hushed, "and asked what fueled such spirit." A deliberate pause, heavy with anticipation. He replied simply, "Because someone must care." The stadium plunged into an abyss of silence. "And that," Traoré declared, his gaze sweeping the arena, "is why I stand before you. Not for ridicule, nor for acclaim." Traoré's voice resonated with conviction, "but for a shoeless child clinging to the belief that humanity still cares. And if I, a man of humble origins, can occupy this stage, then surely one day, so shall he." A palpable discomfort rippled through the assembled glitterati. The very atmosphere in the hall began to shift, to charge with a new, unspoken understanding. At the stage's periphery, Dioblaze seemed to shrink, a diminished figure suddenly swallowed by the glare of the spotlight. Dioblaze simply stared, words deserting him, the swagger draining from his posture. The crowd's gaze, once adoring, now bore into him with a silent, collective demand for an apology. Traoré pivoted slightly, his voice a soft balm yet carrying an undeniable authority. "You possess a rare gift, my friend," he began, his tone devoid of condemnation. "Your voice touches multitudes. Let it be a symphony that uplifts the downtrodden, not a chorus that mocks their pain." The words hung in the air, not in anger, nor in bitterness, but as an unvarnished, resonant truth. A knot constricted Dio's throat. Somewhere deep within the edifice of his ego, a foundational crack appeared. His microphone, once an extension of his power, now felt leaden as he lowered it. With a final defeated glance, he retreated, melting into the velvet shadows of the backstage curtain. No triumphant chords sounded, no laser lights pierced the gloom. Only a profound, almost sacred stillness enveloped the stage. Traoré, his task seemingly complete, returned the microphone to a stunned crew member and turned to depart. But as he neared the stairs, the silence was about to be shattered. Then it began, a single row rising, then another, a human wave cresting until the entire stadium surged to its feet. A deafening roar erupted, a torrent of applause, of cathartic tears, of his name chanted like a prayer. Traoré! Traoré! A galaxy of screens ignited, live streams blazing across the digital firmament. The internet itself seemed to catch fire. Yet amidst this maelstrom of adoration, Ibrahim remained an anchor of humility. No triumphant wave, no gratified smile. He simply inclined his head, a quiet acknowledgement. For in his soul this was no curtain call. It was the sacred pulse of his mission. But the night's narrative was far from concluded. When a sleek, black SUV materialized, courtesy of the organizers, Traoré politely declined. "My thanks, but no," he demurred. "I shall travel with the medical team." Soon he was nestled in the utilitarian confines of a weathered white van, sharing the bumpy, sweltering journey with two young physicians, volunteers at the refugee encampments. Their conversation delved into the profound, exploring the art of mending afflictions that lay beyond the reach of any scalpel or suture. Meanwhile, far from the dusty van, the digital sphere had detonated. Fragments of Traoré's address, his impassioned pleas, his quiet dignity, rocketed across Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, igniting a firestorm. Platforms blazed with trending hashtags, #respect Traoré, #voice of Africa, Mahammudo stream. The very celebrities who had once scoffed now scrambled to tweet their mea culpas, while prominent influencers, visibly moved, wept openly in their reaction broadcasts. As for Dio Blaze, a solitary, stark admission appeared on his social feed. "I erred. Profoundly. Never have I felt so diminished. Forgive this failing." Yet the digital tempest cycloneering around his name meant little to Traoré. He was already charting a course towards the periphery, another village, another haven for the displaced, another forgotten corner of the earth. For he understood a fundamental verity. Authentic transformation is not forged in the glare of the footlights. True impact, he knew, was cultivated in quietude, amidst the grit and grime, in those unseen corners of the world where the relentless gaze of cameras seldom penetrated. And the week was but a fledgling. By Saturday's first light, Traoré was already on the sun-scorched fringes of Burkina Faso, his destination a remote border hospital. Its walls bore the fissures of time and neglect. A solitary, struggling fan offered scant respite from the cloying mix of dust and antiseptic that hung heavy in the air. Yet each nurse he encountered was met with a warm greeting, addressed by name. There, in a dimly lit ward, a child, Isatu, no more than 5 fragile years, lay fighting for each shallow breath. Malaria ravaged her small frame, yet the life-giving IV drips were depleted. "We exhausted our supply yesterday," a nurse confessed in a hushed, despairing tone. The replenishment truck, it's mired in mud, 30 kilometers distant. Without a moment's hesitation, Traoré shed his formalities. Sleeves were rolled, a shovel procured. He plunged into the thick, cloying mud alongside local men, a leader indistinguishable from his people. No cameras chronicled this. No press corps bore witness. Only the raw communion of sweat, earth, and unwavering resolve. 4 arduous hours later, the precious IV bags reached the hospital. Isatu's labored breaths began to ease. Unbeknownst to Traoré, however, a local youth, armed with a simple phone, had captured the entire selfless act. His upload to YouTube, bearing the potent caption, Our president digs for his people's children. What does yours do? Swing became an instant conflagration across the internet. Suddenly, a chorus of voices, journalists, influencers, even global statesmen, echoed the same bewildered query, who is this man? Yet amidst the burgeoning global intrigue, Traoré remained blissfully unaware, his phone still unchecked. He was found gently clasping Isatu's small hand, softly humming a lullaby learned at his own mother's knee. Later that evening, the presidential hotline in Ouagadougou crackled to life. The United Nations. We wish to nominate President Ibrahim Traoré for the Global Humanitarian Peace Award. A beat of silence from his aide. He is unavailable at present. His location? The assistant glanced at the GPS tracker, a pinpoint of light in the vast darkness. The tracker revealed a solitary beacon, deep within a remote forest settlement. His mission? Constructing a classroom. While global airwaves hummed with panel discussions and sensational headlines dissecting his every move, Traoré himself was toiling alongside volunteers in Kuruma village, laying bricks for a schoolhouse ravaged by relentless downpours. From the protective cover of nearby trees, children observed in wide-eyed disbelief a president, their president, heaving cement blocks and mixing mortar with his own hands. A small, curious voice piped up, "Are you truly the president?" A warm, weary smile touched Traoré's lips. "If I were not," he chuckled, gesturing to his calloused hands, "would these blisters bear witness?" The boy's delighted giggle echoed. African news outlets by this point were diligently tracking his unconventional progress. Yet no grand pronouncements issued forth from him, only the quiet rhythm of relentless labor. For Traoré, true leadership was not a performance for the gallery, but the steadfast commitment to be present, especially when the world's gaze had turned away. Then, as if summoned by their collective will, the heavens opened. Not a gentle shower, but a torrential deluge, relentless, soaking, drenching every soul to the bone. Yet Ibrahim Traoré, a figure of unwavering resolve, pressed on. The downpour became a veritable flood, cascading through the village, but the school site remained a hive of undeterred activity. There he stood, rooted in the churning mud, drenched and shivering, yet his eyes burned with an unyielding fire as he helped hoist the final classroom door into place. No entourage, no shelter, just the man, the mud, and a monumental determination. Villagers, their faces etched with concern, appeared with dry towels and steaming bowls of porridge, urging him to seek respite. He demurred until an elderly woman, her eyes wells of ancient sorrow, gently took his hand. "You mirror my son," she whispered, her voice thick with unshed tears. Lost in the war, he too never yielded. She draped a worn scarf around his shivering shoulders, a silent testament of shared grief, her granddaughter echoing the quiet sorrow. As dawn painted the sky, the storm had passed. And there, defiant against the mud, stood their new school, complete. Children, their laughter infectious, danced in its liberated shadow. With his own calloused hands, Traoré hoisted the new chalkboard into place. Nearby, a freshly painted inscription adorned the wall, a simple yet profound declaration, built by the people with their president. As the nascent sun cast its golden glow, a news drone dispatched by a Pan-African network descended, its lens silently chronicling the scene. Within mere hours, that raw, unvarnished footage had captivated millions globally. The question of Ibrahim Traoré's identity had been unequivocally answered. The global chorus now swelled with a new, poignant question: why are there not more leaders of his caliber? Meanwhile, back in Lagos, a restless Dio blaze was methodically packing. An unshakable resolve had taken root. He had to witness this enigma, this president, with his own eyes. Sleep had become a forgotten luxury. Hour after hour, he'd replayed the viral chronicles of Traoré's journey, from the concert stage's crucible to the hospital's quiet desperation to the rain-lashed schoolhouse. Each viewing prized open fresh wounds of guilt, each tear a baptism of profound awakening. I, a jester, he choked out to his reflection, dared to mock a king. He built a school in a deluge, while I merely postured, Dioblaze confessed to his own haunted reflection. Dawn broke on his new resolve. A flight to Ouagadougou was secured. No glittering entourage, no fawning manager, no phalanx of bodyguards. His sole companions were a simple backpack, a virgin notebook, and the crushing weight of his remorse. His arrival was deliberately unannounced, shunning media and fanfare. From the city's inhabitants, he sought a single piece of information: the president's next destination. A weathered market vendor, her eyes kind, gestured towards a sun-baked ochre track. "Seek out Sapan village," she advised, her voice raspy. "Word is, he tends to the widows there." Aboard a cramped, rattling bus navigating paths of raw, red earth, Dio's pen danced across his notebook. "My voice once thundered through arenas, a symphony of fleeting noise. His, a quiet luminescence, now illuminates desolate hearths." Twilight was painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and fading gold as he finally alighted in Sapan. And there, beneath the ancient boughs of a baobab, encircled by a gathering of matriarchs, their faces intricate maps of sun-etched wisdom, sat President Ibrahim Traoré. His hands, surprisingly deft, were immersed in the greasy mechanics of a broken water pump. Dio stood transfixed, rooted to the spot. An unaccustomed heaviness settled in Dio's chest, a profound weight he'd never known. The sun bled into the horizon, painting the sky with its dying embers. The air, thick with the scent of wood smoke and damp earth, seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Beside Traoré, one of the matriarchs, Mama Salamata, began to hum, her melody a fragile thread weaving through the twilight, imbued with a sorrow that resonated to the core. As Dio hesitantly drew nearer, her gaze, glistening with unshed tears, met his. "Bandits stole my husband from me," she murmured, her voice a low threnody. "He died shielding our harvest, our future. They took his life as I prepared our evening meal." Traoré listened, his head inclined in solemn respect, a silent witness to her profound grief. For countless seasons, Mama Salamata's voice, though quavering, gained a steely edge. No figure of authority graced our desolate village. None spared us a thought. But you, Sarki, using a local honorific for chief or leader, you sought us out, shared our fractured bench, and inquired of our well-being. That simple act of humanity, it is etched upon my soul. A tremor ran through Dio. He swallowed against a rising tide of emotion. With faltering steps, he approached, then sank to his knees in the dust beside the president. "Mr. President," his voice was barely a breath, "I have come to beg your forgiveness. I judged without understanding your spirit," Dio confessed, his voice raw. Traoré met his gaze, then gestured to the assembled matriarchs. "Then listen now," he urged gently, "not to my voice, but to theirs." And so beneath a canopy of stars, the widows' voices rose, ancient laments of love and loss, of children vanished in barren fields. Dio, the superstar, for the very first time, simply listened, truly heard. Tears traced paths down Dio's transfixed face. This, he realized, was music in its purest, most profound form. Above Sapan, the cosmos blazed. Traoré, near a modest fire, bore the marks of honest labor, hands stained, eyes weary. Dio sat, a man remade, humbled. Villagers drew close, their shared evening a tapestry woven with tales, tea, and the bittersweet balm of commingled tears. A child barely 7 winters old tugged at Dio's sleeve. "A song perhaps for us?" Dio faltered, a lifetime of performance suddenly weighing heavy. Traoré's hand found his shoulder, a silent urging. "Offer them truth, something genuine." With a deep, steadying breath, Dio rose. No chart-topping anthem this time. Instead, a tender lullaby from his own grandmother's memory. Each note fragile, his voice imbued with a newfound raw humanity. Eyes closed, a collective hum arose, punctuated by soft weeping. As the final, poignant note dissolved, a profound stillness, warm as a familiar blanket, settled over them. Traoré then moved forward. Tomorrow, his voice, though gentle, carried unwavering resolve. We begin a well. No longer shall the women of this village bear water across such wearying distances. A surge of jubilant cries answered him. And in the ensuing quiet, Dio's hushed voice now unburdened. Allow me. The entire cost. A collective, stunned gasp. A rare smile graced Traoré's lips, not for the proffered funds, but for the profound metamorphosis of a human heart. That night, beneath the silent, watchful stars, a president and a performer sat as equals, witnessing the birth of something far more enduring than fleeting fame. By Tuesday's dawn, whispers of their shared endeavor had rippled across Burkina Faso. At village outskirts, children gathered, eyes bright with anticipation, hoping for a glimpse of this leader, who was less a statesman and more a father, a brother, a builder of dreams. In Zunuogo, a village cloaked in fine ochre dust, young Mariam stood a solitary sentinel beside the ruins of her classroom. Her uniform, though clean, bore the phrase of hardship. Clutched in her small hands was a well-loved notebook, its pages nearly translucent with use. Traoré's observant gaze found her instantly. "And why are you not in your lessons, little one?" he inquired, his voice gentle. Mariam's eyes fell. "Our school, it succumbed to the rains last season. We simply gather on stones," she explained, "and await the rain's reprieve." Kneeling beside her, Traoré gently took the worn notebook. Its final page held a child's earnest rendering. A sturdy schoolhouse, children within, a proud flag billowing above. "My dream school," Mariam whispered, a fragile hope lacing her tone that resonated Ismeninia. Dio's own heart fractured anew. That very afternoon, far from any public eye, Traoré and a now resolute Dio rallied the villagers. As dust settled, tools were active. The first foundational bricks of Mariam's dream school set in place. She embraced Traoré, a fierce, grateful hug. "Will you return for its completion?" His smile was warm. "Before then, little one, we shall share the front row." Later, amidst the joyful rhythms of a village campfire dance, Dio's observant eye caught an anomaly, something previously unseen on the president. A faded silvered scar snaked across Traoré's wrist. "That mark?" Dio inquired softly, his curiosity piqued. "It tells a story?" A flicker of ancient pain crossed the president's face before he spoke, his voice low and somber. "I was but 10. Our village fell under attack. My elder brother, he concealed me in a grain silo, then ran, a brave decoy to draw their fire. He never returned." The firelight danced in Dio's widening, horrified eyes. A mere child, indeed, and a vow was forged in that terror. If Providence spared me, I would shield others as he had shielded me. A profound quiet settled between them. Dio averted his gaze, moisture filming his eyes. "My life's pursuit? Applause," he admitted, his voice thick with self-reproach. "Yours? To navigate immense personal suffering, yet still bear the burdens of a nation." Traoré's eyes, fixed on the dancing flames, held a deep, knowing calm. "Scars choose us, my friend, but we choose their legacy." Nearby, slumbering children lay beside their empty bowls. Unseen by most, Traoré rose, quietly distributing nourishment from a pot he'd thoughtfully arranged for earlier. No fanfare, no pronouncements. His compassion needed no audience. Yet miles away, in cities ablaze with electric light, a global audience watched, transfixed. Tears flowed, not of sorrow, but of profound recognition. Here was a leader, scarred yet whole, leading with an unblemished heart. As dawn's first blush kissed the village rooftops, a courier hastened to Traoré, a sealed missive in hand. The script, though tremulous, resonated with an intimate familiarity, his mother's. He broke the seal with deliberate care. "My son," the words began, a mother's quiet pride. "The world now beholds the truth I have carried in my heart always. After your father's passing, I harbored a quiet fear. that bitterness might forever claim you. Yet you chose the path of kindness. That, my dearest, is your truest fortitude. I ache for your presence. Nourish yourself well. Your brother, he would swell with pride. Mama. Traoré carefully folded the cherished missive, pressing it to his heart. A long, contemplative silence ensued. Dio, sensing the profound emotion, ventured softly. Do you long for home, Mr. President? Traoré's reply was a quiet murmur, laden with unspoken depth. I bear it with me, always, wherever my path may lead. Then a poignant anomaly. One of the Sapin widows, her voice a gentle balm, began to croon a soft melody. Others soon joined, their harmonies weaving a familiar tapestry of sound, the very lullaby his mother had sung to him in childhood. As the tender strains drifted on the morning air, Traoré's eyelids fluttered closed. In that suspended moment, the presidential mantle fell away. He was simply a son, a brother, a friend, a man whose devotion to his people was etched far deeper than any earthly title, and every lens trained upon him that dawn captured not merely a statesman, but the very essence of a profound human spirit. By Wednesday's close, the modest convoy re-entered the capital. The concert, catalyst for this extraordinary odyssey, was poised to reconvene, reimagined as a hastily arranged second charity gala, now bearing the hopeful title, Voices of Change. The stadium, once more, thrummed with anticipation, a sea of uplifted expectant screens. This time, however, the collective anticipation was not for the usual parade of performers. All eyes, all hearts awaited him. Backstage, a figure shifted with palpable anxiety, the very crooner whose derision had ignited this firestorm. As Traoré entered, the singer rose, his gaze fixed Zemlé. I erred, he confessed, his voice a low murmur of contrition. Traoré's hand rested gently on his shoulder. You provided a platform, was the president's quiet, magnanimous reply. It was all the opening I required. Then the president advanced. No phalanx of guards, no imposing lectern, simply a man, a microphone, and the weight of a nation's hope. A reverent hush fell upon the stadium. He paused, his gaze sweeping the vast assembly, a silent communion. Your cheers, he began, his voice clear and resonant. Reserve them not for me. Bestow them instead upon the children learning beneath open skies, upon mothers who find solace in song despite their grief, upon the young who carry the torch of change. A breathless stillness answered him, hearts too profoundly stirred for mere applause. Swiftly, footage of Traoré's address surged across global platforms. Yet it was more than his potent words that captivated. It was the raw, unshielded grief as tears traced his cheeks when he spoke of his fallen brother. His sacrifice granted me existence, Traoré's voice fractured, and I, in turn, dedicate my life to nurturing hope in others. He named them, orphans, farmers, teachers, soldiers, dreamers, faces etched in his recent memory. Then, his defining words, humble yet resonant. I am not your hero. I am your echo, the sound of your forgotten voices. The world seemed to pause. Influencers reposted, news outlets translated, and children with earnest sincerity reenacted his message in schoolyards. Even his initial detractor, the singer, shared the footage, his caption a stark revelation. I believed myself the star. Instead, I was merely a witness as history found its voice. In a single week, Traoré transcended leadership to become an emblem, not of power but of profound empathy. That evening, the heavens themselves seemed to rupture, unleashing a deluge upon Ouagadougou, as if in celestial sorrow or ablution. Yet, undeterred, thousands maintained their vigil outside the palace, a silent, drenched congregation. Then, Traoré emerged into the downpour. No umbrella offered sanctuary, merely a simple blanket draped over his shoulders. Beside him, a small, familiar figure, Mariam, clutching her tattered notebook. With a trembling hand, she raised a microphone. He promised to sit with me in class. Her young voice quivered, yet clear. He did far more. He restored our hope. Applause swelled, a gentle murmur at first, then a rising crescendo, finally a thunderous ovation. Tears mingled freely with the relentless rain, streaking down faces etched with profound emotion. And there, under the watchful gaze of a now global audience, Ibrahim Traoré uttered a solemn pledge, his voice a quiet intensity against the storm. As long as breath fills my lungs, I vow your dreams shall never again be dampened by despair.